We've got a thaw going on, and so I'm putting some effort in this moment towards looking at the high tunnel in our neighbor's yard and starting to chip away at figuring out what's going on in here, thinking a little bit about conserving some of the greens that survived the cold snaps that we've gone through, thinking about the needs of the figs, whether or not they're in okay shape for next year's growing, and starting to renovate this low tunnel area and thinking through the idea of setting up a solar panel with a fan to siphon off hot air, bringing a water tank to the far west end, on and on and on. Just chipping away at it. We're going to be probably a month out from wanting to start seeds in here, but the sooner things get organized whenever we have a window, the easier it'll be to do that process when we get there. I've got this old feed bag where I'm putting greens that could be good enough for the chickens, a little mini winter bonus. There might be some worms in there. That's for the plants that really got blown out by the cold. It got very, very cold in here before we had the doors sealed up properly, but some lettuces look nice. I think they'll need some watering, trim off some of the old dead leaves on them. Some of the mustards are looking okay. In fact, a lot of the kales and mustards are. And then there's some areas where it feels like the cold got deep enough to really blow out the cell structure in the plants. And so we can either trim them back and see if they send up new growth, or ones like this, we can simply send them to the chickens and open up some space to be able to seed other things in a short amount of time. Doing a rough sketch here of taking some locust slab wood, some of the thinnest pieces. These are pieces that wouldn't be useful for building any sort of load-bearing structure, but can do a great job passively sitting and holding soil up against them. So with these hoops, this has been a really nice, simple design for us in the past, and something we'll probably be doing more and more. The 1/2-inch bent EMT tubes pushed as deep into the ground as they'll comfortably go can receive some sort of log or branch or slab wood or cardboard or sheet metal to hold beds together. Once we put some poly over this, it's going to be a nice way to have the soil held right up against to the edge of where the plastic will go. So there'll be greenhouse plastic that covers all of this all the way to the far end, and we'll probably fill this with some nice finished compost from the chicken yard, or maybe even some compost that's finished from the walkway. Last winter's experiment was to dig this walkway out very, very deeply, for at least a foot or two more, so quite a bit of an excavation that went all into these beds, and then backfill it with leaf bags and hay and let it decompose. And it generated a lot of heat last winter, which was pretty neat to see. We've got a tube running through there that has that air can pass through to capture some of that heat or recharge it with solar heat during the day. But if you see, now we've got it's dry hay there, but the deeper we go, last winter's composting experiment is this winter's seeding soil. I think it needs a little bit more time. It probably needs to be mixed with more aged compost, but there's tons of beautiful chunks of charcoal in there. There's fungal networks, there's worms. Again, that waste heat, or the heat generated by the composting process, was such a win for starting seeds early last winter, and to think of this as our waste product from that experiment is pretty lovely. So we'll probably be harvesting this out, trying to figure out how to dig through here without damaging the tube that's down below, and get all of this luscious material up and into these beds covered with some finished compost. And then this way we can repeat this process again with fresh raw compost this winter. It's cool to think about the promise of food that is still in here. All these little lettuces that held so far, if we get some warm compost happening, we get a water tank in here to buffer from cold overnight. These should be able to start growing in another few weeks as the light energy increases. And of course there's beautiful chickweed, which just volunteers in here and does incredibly beautiful work in growing pretty much through the winter. They're already starting to get ready to flower. So we can harvest lots of chickweed salads from here. And some of these patches of lettuces and mustard did really nice for themselves, I think, where they had deep mulch on the soil to protect from really, really cold snaps. I think the soil had enough insulation to radiate some warmth back into the plants, and that was quite helpful for them. We'll take some string, some hay bale twine, and tie off to these figs and pull them down and weigh them so that they can be underneath this plastic. Now really, I should have done that in the fall before they experienced extreme cold, and this looks pretty solidly damaged. Maybe not. I'm not going to cut it yet. I'm going to see where in the spring they start to sprout. Maybe they died back entirely to the ground, but my hope is to get a horizontal trunk forming so that each year they can send up shoots, they can make fruit on them, and then we can cut them back in the fall, put the plastic over, and have some of these figs protected from winter. I think if they were in the high tunnel under low frame tunnels, these figs would have absolutely no winter dieback. But just in the openness of a single layer of a high tunnel, we get 0 degrees with -25 Fahrenheit wind chill outside, and these are going to suffer a bit. I'm going to get back to it, but I just thought I would share some of those bits of what we're chipping away at here. Let me know what sort of questions you've got, what things you'd like to see. We can do some update videos when we get ready to put the plastic on here, set up the fan and the solar panel that worked nicely last year, so it'd be good to show that again. And when we're ready to revisit and redesign this hot composting walkway idea with wood on one side, wood on the other, so it's framed in a good way, we'll share that too. Let us know what things we can clarify and what ways we can be helpful. What are you plugging away at in the winter if you have some land to call your own to work with? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.